What if your soul was stuck inside of a Roomba? Sorry, forget I said that. Let's talk about R.E.P.O. R.E.P.O is the new quirky horror co-op on the block, succeeding in being hilarious and terrifying all at the same time. Although it is not a Lethal Company clone, unlike what many say, as it came to be with basically no inspiration from it, it does find itself being similar in a lot of ways, including in the way its lore is seamlessly intertwined with the gameplay, lying just beyond reach for those not looking. The story R.E.P.O aims to tell is much darker than you'd probably expect, and today we're going to explore that story. Unlike Lethal Company's lore, this is told without the use of logs or cutscenes. All we have to work with is the environment, the pieces left behind of a once bustling society that has long since ceased to exist. Using these environmental clues, I hope to answer several questions about the lore within this video, including what happened to human society in R.E.P.O? Where did Taxman, the Semibots, and the monsters come from? Who are the human group, and why do they hate Taxman so much? And finally, what is the theme of R.E.P.O? All of this and more awaits, so whether you're gaming, drawing, at work, or anything in between, get ready as we dive into the surprisingly dark lore of R.E.P.O. Before we can possibly hope to understand the lore of R.E.P.O, we need to lay down some groundwork by exploring the gameplay. In R.E.P.O, you and up to 5 others play as Semibots, humanoid robots with the ability to levitate objects and handle human tools effectively. Your group is led by the Taxman, an entity presented as a grotesque distortion of the crying, laughing emoji, communicating to you solely through emojis. He tasks you with repossessing valuable items at abandoned locations, presumably to pay off past due debts. Acting as obstacles to your goal, these locations are full of strange creatures and monsters. None of their origins are known exactly, as they're all slightly different, with some appearing vaguely human and others not so much. When killed, each monster drops its soul in the form of a glowing pink orb, and these are some of the most valuable items you can get your hands on. Every 5 levels, the moon phase changes, adding incremental difficulty by making the benefits you receive less plentiful and the monsters more powerful. Currently, this ends at level 20 with the super moon. If you were to succumb to any of these dangers, Semibots are designed to retreat into their heads and lose power, regenerating if rescued and placed on an extraction or in the ship at the end of the level. They can seemingly never truly be destroyed. However, should you lose everyone in your party and fail your mission, you'll be retrieved and transported to a disposal arena, where you and your buddies will fight to the death to crown the king of the losers.
Get your ass out of here. Hooray!
What's mainly worth noting with this portion of the game is Taxman's disregard for the Semibots in general. He has no problem getting rid of anyone who can't pull their weight, and he's done so a lot of times. Now, after each successful mission, the truck stops at a service station, which acts as a shop where the Semibots can exchange their earned money for tools and upgrades. I believe the exchange of currency and the shop itself is simply part of gameplay, but the setting has its own set of implications. For one, the service station is quite clearly a repurposed gas station, and the cashier's skeleton, as well as a survivor who hid in the attic, are still here. All of the locations in the game are sort of like this. Abandoned, yet still full to the brim with evidence of someone's presence once upon a time. The Taxman, ironically, persists, repossessing property from society that no longer even functions, where money has lost its value. In order to have a chance of understanding why this is, we're gonna have to dive even deeper and explore each level in detail. So let's go ahead and begin with McJannek Station. McJannek Station is an Arctic research base, most likely located somewhere in Greenland. Although the flag of Denmark can be seen throughout the base, Denmark is not known for tall mountains or extreme cold like is displayed in the entry animation for the level. Not only that, but the station's logo has a puffin penguin in it, which, although I believe can be in Denmark, is more likely something you'd find in Greenland. This discrepancy can be explained easily through Denmark's direct affiliation with Greenland, implying a joint government involvement in the station's former operation. No sign of struggle is present here, and there are no human remains either. It's just empty. Yet everything is still in its place. We don't have any idea exactly what this base was made to research or what they did leading up to the disappearance of its staff, but we do know what they found. Of the items left behind to scavenge for, there are 2 ice blocks with mysterious things contained within them. Whiteboards can be found throughout the station, featuring a sentence that reads, "What's in the ice?" As a final important detail, a calendar can be seen on the wall, which ends on the 3rd Monday of April in 2097. This is the first bit of timeline context we receive, confirming that the game takes place in the far future, at least relative to us. Unfortunately, knowing the day is not helpful. Some speculate that the researchers uncovered an ancient disease within the ice that went on to wreak havoc on humanity. Others draw parallels to The Thing, a famous horror movie where an assimilating alien organism is found buried in the ice of an Arctic research base, and you can kind of see where they're coming from. It's also possible that the answer to what happened here is a lot simpler and not quite as dark. The place simply ran out of funding and everyone just left. Maybe the government had more important things going on, such as some other reason for an apocalypse. Regardless, all we really do know is that there was a research base, and one day everyone in it either immediately vanished or quickly evacuated with no sign of panic whatsoever. Swiftbroom Academy is a school of brewing and sorcery, hidden away in a forest in an unknown location. The mere presence of a magic school to begin with is super interesting, implying a sort of high fantasy scenario and highlighting that something as crazy as magic actually exists within the world of R.E.P.O. Unlike McJannek Station, it actually does show clear, but limited, signs of a struggle, such as the blood-red text found on the walls that reads, "It's the headmaster," and extraction rooms with tables flipped over to form barricades in the corner. It's unclear exactly who this headmaster was or what he did. Some theorize that he performed a spell gone wrong, which could offer an alternative theory regarding humanity's downfall. Others say he may have accidentally turned himself into the Trudge, one of the most powerful enemies in the game, going on to rampage through the academy and attacking everyone he stumbled across. There is a skeleton in a study that can be found, with a portrait right above it bearing the resemblance of the hat on its skull. There are really 2 options here for who this is. It's either a random professor or, more likely, the headmaster himself, as it is the only bit of human remains that can be found on the entire map. The most important detail in the academy is the photo of the previous graduating class, labeled as Class of 87. Upon first entering the map, you can see a banner hanging from the ceiling welcoming new students to the school, which means whatever happened with the headmaster was likely on an orientation day, and specifically after the class of 87 graduated. In all likelihood, of course, this is meant to be 2087, 10 years before the last date at McJannek Station. Once again, although this is fascinating, there's nothing we can really do with this information. Headman Manor is a large haunted mansion, also located deep within a pine forest. It can be assumed that this estate belonged to the Headman enemy, who is confirmed to be deceased based on his gravestone being found in one of the courtyard tiles of the map. Although there isn't much substance to the Headman Manor, similar to the Academy, it does at least reinforce an idea. The supernatural is more than just superstition in the world of R.E.P.O. It proves that life after death is possible, with the soul being not only a tangible force that can be manipulated, but also assigned a quantifiable value, according to Taxman. Now, whether or not the supernatural is innately connected to magic or is a separate idea within this universe is not something that we know. Because the Headman is implied to have held a high position when he was alive, many people theorize that his role in the story is deeper than it may initially appear. Having been a rich elite, it's entirely possible that he could have sponsored the creation of the Taxman, or donated money to any of the other groups we see throughout the game. Aside from speculation, though, what he may have done while living is a complete mystery. As a specter, he seems to have lost all sense of self, mindlessly floating and attacking any Semibot in his sight. And now we get to move on to the Museum of Human Art, which is by far the most lore-dense part of the entire game. Even in its name alone, it already starts asking questions. Why the need to specify human art? Well, that question can be answered by looking at the trailer for the update that added it to the game.
In these times, we need something new. A place where robots and automation are not allowed. A museum of human art.
Take it easy.
A place where humans can be human. Art with purpose. We need this now. Before the cursed moon rises!
Now we understand why the museum is named the way it is. It was made with the purpose of excluding robots and automation from art as a safe haven for human culture and ideology. However, the part that really raises an eyebrow is the last part, a reference to a cursed moon. Before we can figure out what they might have meant by that, how about we slow down for a moment to explore the museum itself? Unlike the other 3 locations we can visit within the game, the museum is not in the middle of nowhere. In fact, it finds itself in the center of a downtown metro area, though the state of the museum suggests that there are very few people left to populate this once sprawling urban center, assuming anyone is left to begin with. The walls of the museum are dirty, furniture broken and overturned, and doors are boarded up. It's the only map in the game that makes it ridiculously evident that this place has long since been abandoned. In fact, some banners for special exhibits left behind suggest the last time this place was used was 2030, the earliest point on the timeline we've seen. What's especially interesting about the item pool in the museum is that every single thing you can find is, unsurprisingly, a piece of human art. A lot of it is abstract, some slightly disturbing, and some of them are silly. Despite the museum being long since vacated, there are still even security systems in place to protect some of the art left behind. Automatic lasers that burn you if you get too close. The walls are decorated with old, fading exhibit paintings, with many depicting the Semibots, Taxman, or the monsters we face throughout the game. As well as this, some sculptures paint the Semibots in a clearly negative light, with one showing a Semibot head being used as a furnace, burning money wastefully. Overall, I find the various art displays to be particularly intriguing because it conveys to us that humanity had already been dealing with all of these things at least prior to 2030, if not far earlier. Where the lore of the museum gets really juicy, though, is in the graffiti that's left behind. Basically, every room has it, and every bit of it tells a different piece of the story. Through this, we learn about an organization named the Human Group, a band of survivors that formed after whatever disaster nearly wiped out all of humanity. And we know for a fact that humanity had to have survived because one piece of graffiti advertises a comedy show behind the food court every Friday, with a quote in the corner reading, "Humanity almost perished, LOL." Another chilling detail in the text that says, "always seats available," may imply that there's very few people left to regularly attend. Through the graffiti, the Human Group's affiliation is made abundantly clear, commonly depicting the Semibots with X's in place of their eyes and attempting to recruit others with the message, "Join Human Group, stop Taxman." Other graffiti found throughout the museum commonly depicts the monsters we see in-game, with some even offering as warnings. The rest of it is just random or abstract, the type of graffiti you'd expect to see. Now, as far as helping us figure out what happened to humanity goes, I think the presence of the monsters within the world is probably a huge factor. A crucial bit of graffiti that supports this depicts a blood moon, which is likely related to the narration that referred to a cursed moon rising. We can intuit based on what blood moons tend to do in other media that this is likely our best candidate for humanity's near extinction, at least so far. But it's really hard to say exactly how things went down. The art exhibits showcasing people's depictions of many of these monsters prove that humanity was already undergoing some kind of tribulation. The narration in the trailer lists that the museum was made under a demand. In these times, we need something new. There's one more piece of graffiti left to discuss, the most mysterious one in my opinion. It reads, "Survive without possession." Below it are various short messages left by other people, one of which talks about being sick of fresh corn and another reading, "Take down the bots." The rest of it is sort of incoherent. It's hard to say what the phrase "survive without possession" really means, though I do have a theory that I'll get into shortly. Arguably the most important thing that we've yet to figure out is where Taxman and the Semibots fit into the equation. I mean, we don't even have any idea where they came from. Or do we? Something I'm sure many people have ignored up until this point is the tutorial, which actually utilizes a custom map dedicated to teaching you the game's mechanics. However, this map actually hides a secret to the origin of the Semibots, and perhaps the Taxman by extension. In-universe, this tutorial is a routine orientation, taking place inside an orientation facility. A door on the wall has a sign stating that no service technician should be present in the facility during testing, in accordance with the AI Workers Safety Act of 2184, by far the farthest date we've seen. On the wall of a different chamber, we find a company logo and name, R.E.P.O Automations. Most likely, this is the company responsible for producing the Semibots. The Taxman is specifically labeled as your boss during this orientation, so I find it entirely plausible that they also programmed his AI, or at the very least are affiliated with whoever did. Earlier, I noted that technicians aren't allowed to be in the building during robot orientation. Well, funny thing about that, there were a few of them, and they're all dead. A good handful of skeletons wearing R.E.P.O hats are scattered throughout the place. Just like the service station and the academy, we find corpses in spots that suggest an unexpected and immediate death, with how they happened remaining a mystery. Okay, now that we have all the available information, I can finally be comfortable making countless assumptions and immeasurable leaps in logic. Just kidding. But seriously, let's start with our first question from the intro. What happened to human society in R.E.P.O? It wouldn't be fit from a storytelling perspective for the downfall of humanity to have been caused by something that we haven't been told. That would be unsatisfying. But at the same time, we have a lot of different options to choose from. Honestly, my answer is that it's a combination of everything. The Museum of Human Art prominently features the monsters we encounter in the game, which to me acts as evidence that their existence is intrinsically related to human culture in some way. It's possible that they appeared suddenly and started attacking people en masse per the blood moon, which would have led to a massive shared experience that people could unite over. Although I mentioned the blood moon or cursed moon, the means through which this happened are really not known. It could have been supernatural, could have been a failed spell, or even a disease from McJannek Station. The game intentionally presents all of these options, and my favorite interpretation is to say that each of them took partial credit in the insane near-extinction event. So, in asking what happened to human society, we've simultaneously answered the question where the monsters came from. So naturally, we next need to ask, where did Taxman and the Semibots come from? The simple answer is, obviously, R.E.P.O Automations, the company that we just learned about. We know now that asking where they come from isn't nearly as interesting as wondering why they exist in the first place. Explaining why the Taxman exists is fairly obvious, at least on a surface level. It's an algorithm that was made with the purpose of upholding tax agreements, established with companies and organizations whose locations we visit to form the basis of the gameplay. It's possible that the Taxman was even used for individual people's taxes. We really have no idea at what scale this AI was used. it is extremely difficult to ascertain why Taxman's AI was never programmed with a contingency to stop it from collecting even after everyone was gone. To me, this is proof that Taxman was made haphazardly, with greedy intentions and gross negligence at the forefront of its design. From a narrative perspective, his existence acts as a case study on how automating something so important can be really dangerous, especially if you don't correctly define its boundaries. And this segues perfectly into asking what purpose the Semibots serve. First, we have to think about their round, friendly design philosophy and the functionality that they possess. Obviously, you could argue that they only look like this because they needed to be appealing to people that wanted to play the game, but I think it's a bit deeper than that. They're also proficient in carrying small to medium-sized objects and handling human tools, and get better with upgrades. With all of this in mind, I think Semibots were originally manufactured as a commercial home robot, with the purpose of helping families with tasks like cleaning, laundry, cooking, and etc. This would be really interesting if true, because R.E.P.O was originally a cleaning game, implying an awesome meta aspect where they were originally cleaning robots both within the narrative and within the context of game development. Whether or not this is or isn't true, the Semibots no longer operate with that purpose. Now they collect items and the souls of monsters in an act of repossession to serve the Taxman, their boss. But have you ever thought about the fact that souls have an assigned value in the world of R.E.P.O? I mean, how do you even quantify the value of a soul? Well, Taxman clearly found a way to do it, and something tells me he was never meant to. I think it's entirely possible that Taxman was given permission to use monster souls. From there, he realized that repossession of property wasn't enough for certain individuals to pay off their debts, and he had a revelation that he was never meant to have. He could assign a value to human souls. From there, the Semibots, indestructible vessels under Taxman's command, already situated in many families' homes, were spontaneously reprogrammed to kill people and claim their souls for their value. But here's where it gets insane. I think for some people, the value Taxman assigned to their souls wasn't enough. I mean, think about it, even the monster souls in R.E.P.O are only worth a few $1,000s, maybe like $7,000 or $8,000 at max. Their lives aren't deemed valuable enough to pay off entire debts, so why would a human soul be any different? So Taxman came up with another genius idea. Take the human souls and place them into the Semibots, introducing them into indentured servitude, sort of like if your soul was trapped in a Roomba. This would explain why the Semibots use our voices when we play despite having their own robotic voices should we choose to type out a message. Why the Semibots are depicted in the museum as world destroyers, evil creatures with an error in their programming, possessing a heart. This is why corpses can be found in places where they would have needed to suddenly and unexpectedly be killed. These were not slow deaths, they were quick, cold, calculated, as if done by a machine. And I still believe that this is only one of the things that led to humanity's downfall. Clearly, there was enough time for art to be made depicting Taxman and the Semibots, and for a general disdain regarding them to be formed. Although many people clearly disappeared without warning, the event as a whole couldn't have happened overnight. It's undeniable how horrifically ironic this outcome would be. The Semibots, designed to automate mundane human tasks and give people more time, just ending up being vessels for people to possess and slave away to pay their debts? That's awful. All of this taken into account, it's no wonder the human group hates Taxman so much. They are what's left. The remnants of humanity that survived, and may even continue to survive, Taxman's regime. Now we know what they meant by survive without possession. Lastly, we arrive at the final question. What is the theme of R.E.P.O? Well, the game's title, R.E.P.O, clearly it was always meant to have multiple meanings. We, the players, are repossessing property for Taxman, but we are also repossessing an empty vessel, the Semibots. Regardless of the merit my personal theory holds, the story's clearly trying to frame Taxman as an AI gone rogue. Even the museum was literally founded under the premise of creating a space where automation isn't allowed. Within the context of art, AI is a hot topic, considered almost universally taboo by artists when trained off of people's hard work without permission and moderation, and this matches the game's story pretty well. Without a shadow of a doubt, I can say that R.E.P.O's message is proudly anti-AI, showcasing the dangers associated with relying on automation too heavily without precise regulation. And beautifully, it does so while being an independently developed game made by a team that has poured their hearts and souls into the game for millions to enjoy. What conclusion could possibly be more fitting than that?
Oh my god! It's beautiful!
But of course, due to the vague nature of R.E.P.O's lore, it is entirely possible that a decent bit of what I've said is either irrelevant or just plain wrong. However, I am truly proud of my interpretation and believe it has some merit. The one thing that does stump me completely, though, is how the timeline of this world fits. Every year we've been given seems to have little to no connection relative to any other, and the AI Worker Safety Act being the farthest point on the timeline has me completely scratching my head. Either way, only time will tell how accurate my various hypotheses are. As is the nature with an early access game of any kind, future updates will surely blow our minds as they reveal the truth behind the Semibots, Taxman, the human group, and more. For now, all we can really do is break more diamonds as soon as we find them. No! Hey there, this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I've wanted to make this since like the first time I played R.E.P.O, and the new update finally gave me enough content to work with to make a proper theory, which was really exciting. I had a lot of fun making this and putting it together, and I'd love to get to interact with some of you guys some more, so come on down to the community Discord server, don't be shy. If you liked the video, you should check out some other stuff I've done. I've got a decent variety on the channel, so just like, see what you might like, you know? I usually do all of the work on this channel on my own because I'm not comfortable with the idea of giving away any part of my process to someone that I don't trust deeply. They always take like dozens of hours to make, and I would really appreciate any kind of support that you can give, even if you just want to share this video with a friend that you think would also like watching it. Once again, thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this and support what I do. It means a lot. Anyways, that's going to be all from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time.